Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling one of IT's real head scratchers, the
Mm.
configuration management database, the CMDB. I mean, everyone sort of agrees it should be the backbone of effective IT service management. But then you see stats like Gartner's saying, what, 80% of these projects just don't deliver any real value. That's huge.
It's an astonishing number, yeah. And it really points to a fundamental gap in understanding what the CMDB is actually for. So our mission today really is to cut through all that historical baggage and pull out what we're calling the elite manager's playbook.
Mm.
You know, the strategy, the governance, the tech needed to actually turn the CMDB from this costly shelfware into a proper strategic nerve center.
Okay, good. And just so we're all on the same page from the start, what really separates a CMDB from, say, just basic IT asset management? Is it just a fancier lift?
Not at all. It's the relationships. That's the absolute key. A CMDB, sure, it tracks configuration items, CIs, hardware, software services, the usual suspects. But the critical bit, the thing that elevates it, is tracking the relationships and dependencies between those CIs. If ITAM is your inventory list, the CMDB is the map. It shows how everything connects.
Right, the map. That's the value. Okay, so let's talk about the why. If an organization gets this right, what's the strategic payoff beyond just ticking an ITIL box?
Oh, the value ripples outwards. Think strategic planning for starters. A healthy CMDB gives you the hard data for big decisions on enterprise architecture, managing your IT portfolio, even accurate capacity planning. It tells you exactly which applications support which business services. That lets leaders make much smarter choices about where to invest or what to retire.
And strategy always comes back to cost, doesn't it?
Always. And for financial accounting, the CMDB drives transparency. It lets you do accurate cost allocation, set up chargeback models because you actually know who's using what. And maybe even more critically, it's vital for software license compliance. And for spotting waste redundant systems, underused servers, huge savings potential there.
Okay, so strategic planning, finance. What about the teams in the trenches? Incident, problem, change management.
That's where the dependency map becomes immediate operational resilience. For incident management, something breaks, you look at the CMDB, you instantly see the downstream impact. Which business services are hit, it just slashes your mean time to resolve. And for change management, historically, the biggest source of outages the CMDB provides, that essential risk and impact analysis. It helps prevent those changes that cause chaos.
The potential upside is clearly massive, which makes that 80% failure rate even more jarring. So let's dissect the anatomy of failure. Why do they so often fall flat?
Well, the number one killer, organizationally speaking, is untrustworthy data. Simple as that. If the IT teams, the engineers, the support staff, if they can't rely on what the CMDB tells them, they just stop using it instantly.
And go back to their spreadsheets.
Exactly. Spreadsheets, wikis, asking Bob down the hall, tribal knowledge. And the CMDB just becomes this expensive, neglected database nobody trusts, a liability.
So if data's often bad, why do these projects keep getting funded? Is it the tech implementation that's usually flawed, or is it the goal itself?
Often it's the goal. Failure number two is having unclear objectives. These vague aims like achieve ITIL compliance. They don't give you a finish line. Elite managers, they tie the CMDB project directly to solving a specific measurable business problem.
Yeah.
Like, we need to cut change-related P1 incidents by 30%. That's a concrete outcome.
Not just build a CMDB.
Right. And the third big trap is trying to do too much at once.
The kitchen sink approach.
Precisely. Overscoping. Trying to catalog every single attribute of every single asset, whether you have a use case for it or not. It just makes the data impossible to maintain accurately. It becomes noise. The goal isn't all the data. It's the right trusted data for specific valuable use cases.
You hear a lot about the people side being the hardest part. Executive buy-in, ownership.
It really is. Executives consistently point to people and process deficits as the biggest hurdle. If you don't have crystal clear data ownership, clear accountability, the data quality inevitably degrades and the whole thing stalls. And that creates what you could call the trust paradox. You need funding to build trust in the data, but you can't get funding until the CMDB shows some value, which requires trust. It's circular.
So how do the successful leaders break out of that loop? How do they get that initial crucial investment?
They fundamentally change the conversation. They don't go asking for money to build a CMDB. That sounds like an internal IT project. Instead, they ask for investment to solve a specific high-visibility, painful business problem. Maybe it's recurring outages hitting revenue or failing critical audits. And then they position a trustworthy CMDB as the only viable long-term solution to that specific problem. It's framed as risk reduction or efficiency gain, not a database build.
That reframing makes a lot of sense. Okay, so if it's a long-term strategic asset, not a one-off project, that brings us squarely to governance. How do you tame this thing?
You absolutely have to adopt a product management mindset. Treat the CMDB like a living enterprise product. It needs ongoing funding, a roadmap, someone managing its value streams, and underpinning all of that, governance. It's completely non-negotiable. You often see leading organizations create a formal central body for this, sometimes jokingly called the CMDB Institute or something similar.
Governance means roles and responsibilities. Who are the key players in that RCI chart needed to keep the data clean?
Well, you need the high-level executive sponsor, obviously, accountable for the program's success, securing resources. Then there's the CMDB process owner. They define the overall data model, the standards, the rules of the road. But the real day-to-day accountability for accuracy, that lies with the domain and class owners. These are the SMEs, the subject matter experts. The network team lead owns the network CIs, the server team lead owns server CIs, and so on. They are responsible for data quality within their patch.
And who ultimately decides if it's actually useful day to day?
The data consumers. Your service desk agents using it for incidents, your change managers assessing risk, application owners checking dependencies. They are the ultimate judges. If they find the data stale or wrong and stop using it, the whole thing has failed, no matter how technically elegant the setup is. Their feedback is absolutely critical for prioritizing improvements.
Okay, we often hear this phrase, single source of truth. But you're suggesting elite organizations don't centralize everything, they use federation. Can you break that down?
Yeah, that single source of truth idea often gets misinterpreted. Trying to physically cram every piece of raw data about every asset into one CMDB. It's usually a performance nightmare and creates huge data management overhead. The smarter strategy is federation. The CMDB acts as the central logical aggregator and, importantly, the reconciliation engine. It pulls in key authoritative attributes from other specialized systems, the sources of truth, for specific data points without needing to store all the raw data itself.
Can you give an example? Like what kind of data would it pull?
Sure, it might pull, say, the asset cost and warranty info from your IT financial management tool, or maybe the latest vulnerability scan results from your security information system, the SIEM. The CMDB holds the master CI record, defines the critical relationships, shows the reconcile status, but it doesn't try to replicate those entire source databases. It links to them.
Okay, so to keep that federated view accurate, given how fast things change, especially in hybrid environments, you need really tight CI lifecycle discipline, right?
Absolutely essential. Configuration data gets stale incredibly fast. So for creation, the guiding principle has to be maximum automation. Leverage discovery tools constantly. For maintenance, you need ironclad integration with change management. The rule should bow. No change gets implemented unless the relevant CI record is updated as part of the change process. And for retirement, again, automation is key. You need automated processes that flag CIs that haven't been seen by discovery or updated via change within a defined period, maybe 90 days, labeling them as potentially stale or orphaned for investigation.
That push for automation seems critical. Trying to do this manually sounds like, well, impossible.
It is impossible at scale, especially with the cloud and virtualization. Automation isn't optional. It's the primary weapon against data inaccuracy. And because no single discovery method sees everything, you need a multimodal discovery approach, layered.
Okay, what are the key layers or modes we need for that comprehensive view?
You typically start with API-based discovery. This is vital for cloud platforms, AWS, Azure, GCP, and virtualization like VMware. It gives you rich contextual data, often in near real time. Then, for your on-premise environment, you usually use agentless scanning, things like SSH or WMI, to get that initial baseline inventory across the network. But for the really deep details, exact OS patch levels, locally installed software, configurations, you often need agent-based tools installed directly on the servers or endpoints.
Okay, API, agentless, agent-based. That covers a lot. But I also saw mention of passive discovery listening to network traffic. If agents give deep detail, why do we need that too?
Good question. They look for different things. Passive discovery, analyzing things like NetFlow or packet captures, is incredibly valuable for two main reasons. One, it helps infer relationships and dependencies that might not be explicitly documented anywhere else just by seeing who's talking to whom. And two, critically, it's often the best way to spot shadow IT, those devices communicating on your network that were never officially provisioned or recorded. Huge security and compliance gap if you don't find them.
Got it. Okay, switching gears slightly. How do we connect this to the world of DevOps? How do elite teams make the CMDB truly application aware and bridge that historical dev versus ops gap?
By integrating CMDB updates directly into the CI/CD pipeline, it becomes part of the automated workflow. So when a deployment pipeline successfully pushes out new code, the final step isn't just finishing the deployment. It should trigger an automated API callback to the ITSM tool, to the CMDB, updating the relevant application service CI record in real time.
Ah, so the update is baked into the deployment success.
Exactly. It ensures accuracy, reduces manual effort, and crucially creates that clear audit trail. This deployment changed this CI at this time.
So if automation tools are the nervous system collecting data, you mentioned AIOps, artificial intelligence for IT operations acting as the proactive brain. What can machine learning do with CMDB data streams?
AIOps takes the CMDB from being reactive to being proactive, even predictive. First up is intelligent anomaly detection. The ML models learn the normal patterns of your configuration data, so they can automatically flag unusual changes, configuration drift, or even CIs with incomplete critical attributes before they cause an outage.
Okay, spotting problems early. What else?
Second, automated relationship inference. AIOps can analyze logs, network traffic, traces, and other data to discover hidden or undocumented dependencies between CIs, relationships that your standard discovery tools might have missed, filling in the gaps on that map.
And the really powerful part sounds like the predictive side.
That's the game changer. Predictive impact analysis. AIOps can correlate historical CMDB data, specifically change records, with past incident data. It learns which kinds of changes, affecting which kinds of CIs, have previously led to problems. Then, when a new change request comes in, it can provide a predictive risk score. You mentioned value earlier. One source highlighted a major credit card company that implemented this. They achieved a 75% reduction in P1 incidents traced back to changes. 75%. That's the kind of result that gets attention.
Wow. Okay, 75%. That's serious business intelligence. But
Sure.
as you said, that intelligence is useless if it's locked away. So, part 4, the reporting revolution. Using tools like Power BI to actually show this value.
Exactly. Reporting isn't just reports. It's this strategic communication tool. Especially for larger organizations, you need a scalable approach. The most common, robust method is the ETL and data warehouse approach. You extract, transform, and load ETL, the relevant CMDB data, into a separate analytics data warehouse. Power BI then connects to that store, not directly hammering your live ITSM system. This also lets you easily blend CMDB data with other enterprise data, maybe financial data, HR data, for much richer analysis without impacting operational performance.
And presumably, the dashboards themselves need to be tailored, not just one giant data dump for everyone.
Absolutely not. One size fits nobody here. The CMDB team themselves. They need operational health dashboards. These focus on the intrinsic quality of the data. Key metrics like CI completeness percentage may be trended over time, or the number of orphan CIs, CIs with no relationships, or the count of stale CIs, things not updated or seen by discovery in, say, 90 days. That's how they manage the health of their product.
But the leadership team, the CIO, maybe the CFO, they don't care about orphan CIs, right? They need bottom line results.
Precisely. For them, you build business value dashboards. These focus purely on outcomes. Things like change success rate percentage over time, are we getting better? Or maybe quantified cost savings from retired assets that the CMDB helped identify. And a big one is often an audit readiness score, some kind of composite score, showing how well CIs are documented and traceable, which speaks directly to risk and compliance.
And the beauty of tools like Power BI is the interactivity, isn't it?
It's huge, enabling interactive impact analysis visually. Instead of someone trying to decipher complex relationship tables in the raw system, a manager can just click on a CI in a Power BI dashboard, say, a critical database server, and instantly see a filtered visual map of all the dependent applications, the business services relying on it, even the contacts for the service owners. That kind of intuitive visualization is what makes the value proposition real. It's what sells the program and keeps that executive support strong.
Okay, this has been fantastic on the tech and process. Finally, let's talk about the person in charge, the high-pressure operator. Elite performance isn't just tech, it's also the leader's mindset and toolkit, especially when things go wrong.
Absolutely. When a crisis hits a major outage, having structured thinking frameworks is vital. A classic one is the military's OD loop: observe, orient, decide, act. The CMDB, particularly those service maps we talked about, plays a massive role in the orient phase. You've observed the alerts, the symptoms. The CMDB helps you orient to understand the context, the business impact, what's connected before you decide on the action.
Yeah.
It turns raw data into understanding fast.
And for thinking ahead, being proactive rather than just reactive during crises. You mentioned inversion. How does that apply here?
Inversion is powerful. Instead of only asking, how do we make this risky migration successful, you flip it. Ask, what would absolutely guarantee this migration fails? And the CMDB context, the likely answer is, if our dependency data for the core applications involved is wrong, we are guaranteed to fail. So by inverting, you identify the absolute most critical data points for that specific risk. Then you proactively double down on ensuring that specific data is accurate through extra validation, audits, whatever it takes, before you start the high-risk activity.
That makes sense. And managing the sheer stress of this kind of role, keeping your own head straight in a 24/7 environment.
It's crucial. Leaders need strategies for personal resilience. Beyond the basics like managing stress triggers, structured time management is key. Techniques like time blocking or dedicating specific deep work sessions are essential. You have to consciously carve out time for the important but not urgent stuff, like reviewing the CMDB data model, planning improvements, doing those governance checks. If you only ever focus on the urgent fires, you never get ahead. Using something like the Eisenhower matrix helps prioritize that strategic preventative work. That's what ultimately reduces the number of fires later on.
This really paints a picture of transformation. Let's try and synthesize this. What are the core pillars for turning a struggling CMDB around?
Okay, 4 key takeaways, I think. 1, govern first. Don't even think about massive tech rollouts until you have the ownership, the standards, the political foundation in place. 2, automate everything. Make automation the default for data creation and maintenance. Multimodal discovery, CI/CD integration. Make manual updates the absolute exception. 3, report for value. Use dashboards like Power BI to constantly translate the technical metrics into tangible business outcomes, risk reduction, cost savings, improved stability. Communicate that value relentlessly. And 4, lead with frameworks. Use mental models like the ODA loop for crisis management and inversion for proactive risk mitigation. Make clear, structured thinking your standard operating procedure.
That's a great summary. And for someone listening thinking, okay, where do I possibly start? The sources had a good tip for a 90-day sprint, didn't they?
Yes, exactly. Don't try to boil the ocean day one. Build momentum. Pick one single high-visibility pain point. Maybe it is those change-induced incidents affecting your main customer-facing application. Then focus your initial governance and automation efforts only on the 1 or 2 critical CI classes most relevant to that specific problem. Perhaps the application servers and the load balancers they sit behind. Get the discovery and change process tight just for those. Then, within that 90-day window, launch a simple Power BI dashboard showing clear improvement in the completeness and accuracy metrics for those specific CIs. That focused, data-driven success story, however small initially, is what builds credibility and earns you the right to ask for more investment.
That feels like a very actionable way to begin. Okay, let's wrap up with a final thought for everyone listening to mull over. Think about the common complaint in many IT organizations. We have too many meetings. Endless CAB meetings, marathon war room calls, data quality review committees. What if that isn't really a cultural problem? What if it's fundamentally a data and process issue? The ultimate sign of a truly successful, automated, high-trust CMDB is that it systematically eliminates the need for much of that manual correlation, validation, and discussion. It renders many of those high-cost, high-friction meetings simply obsolete because the trusted answer is readily available. So the question to leave you with is, which meetings currently consuming your time and energy could potentially vanish if your organization could truly trust its configuration data?